Hi, my name is Viviana Hasso with Group 22, and our topic is on cloning. My group and I will discuss what cloning is, why cloning is of interest, the current state of knowledge, and discuss any controversies. I will start off by discussing what cloning is. The definition of cloning is an identical copy of. A more scientific term is a clone is a genetically identical copy of an organism, and it may be naturally occurring or created in the lab. Clones are organisms that are exact genetic copies, meaning every single bit of their DNA is identical. There are three types of cloning: gene cloning, reproductive cloning, and therapeutic cloning. Gene cloning is essentially recombinant DNA technology where a piece of foreign DNA is inserted into a vector which can be copied by a host cell. Therapeutic cloning involves the production of a patient-matched stem cells for disease treatment. Reproductive cloning is the process by which the whole organism is cloned. How does reproductive cloning work? First, a cell is taken from the organism that is being cloned, then the DNA from the donor cell is then transferred to an egg cell whose DNA has been removed. The egg cell is then activated and begins dividing as if it was fertilized. An embryo results, and this embryo is then transferred to the uterus of a surrogate female. After gestation is complete, the surrogate will give birth to the clone, which is a genetic copy of an animal from which the original cell was taken. This was really just an insight of what cloning is. Now Lauren A. will further discuss the current state of knowledge of reproductive cloning.
My name is Larnay Sykes, and I'm doing the current state of knowledge of reproductive cloning. Nearly every poll shows virtually a unanimous support for a ban on reproductive cloning. On the other hand, opposition to cloning that would produce an embryo but not a baby is not as serious. Scientists want to make and study cloned embryos because this will be a great way to understand and ultimately treat disease. For reproductive cloning to occur, an embryo has to be implanted into the uterus of a female of the same or closely related species in order for it to develop into a baby animal. A report on cloning from the NBAC concluded that no one knew whether cloning to make a baby human was safe in 1997, and then in 2002, NBAC wrote a follow-up report that cloning should be banned. These speculations came from assumptions like family dynamics would most likely be fraught with problems. For example, what would happen if a mother was cloned so she could have a baby? What happens when the daughter grows into the spitting image of the woman that the father fell in love with? Or if a clone grew up spending their lives feeling like a burden by thinking that they will only ever be a copy of someone else? However, others would argue that clones are more than a copy of someone else. Their experiences starting in the womb and building throughout life would shape what kind of person the clone grows into. Also, in reproductive cloning in humans, researchers started to infer that if people were given the chance to clone someone, it would lead to the shadow of eugenics, which means cloning might be used to select or reject certain traits depending on society's preferences. As of 2017, there are no laws specifically regarding human cloning.
On the topic of cloning and the controversies that come up with this subject, many people are worried about the health risk cloning can have on animals and on humans. As well as this, people aren't comfortable with creating a living being in a natural way. In the example of Dolly the sheep, who was the first animal to be cloned, it took scientists 277 attempts to come up with one successfully cloned sheep. Once scientists successfully created Dolly, they noticed she had many problems from the start. They discovered that she had shorter telomeres than those of a normal sheep. This was thought to have happened because they took her DNA from an adult sheep, so these telomeres had not been fully renewed during her development. There are also many cases where cloned offspring have evidenced dozens of health problems, including obesity, seizures, tumors, and many more. In modern-day science, cloning seems to have no scientific benefit and a lot of risk. A lot of scientists are not accepting the challenge to try and clone. In addition to scientists being skeptical, the House of Representatives even proposed a legislation to ban therapeutic as well as reproductive human cloning. But this measure was stalled when it reached Congress. There are many benefits to cloning and interesting studies that cloning have created, but as well as the benefits, there are also cons that people need to take into effect.
Hi, my name is Christelle Seguin, and I'm going to be talking about how the idea of cloning has caught the interest of many people. Well, for one, doctors believe that it can be very beneficial for transplant patients as they can grow replacement tissues and organs that can replace the damaged ones. This is because although transplant operations have been going on for a while, many patients still die and suffer from organ damage because of tissue rejection. So if cloning was made possible, this could help so many people. Another thing that is that it can revive endangered animals or extinct animals actually, and then it could also be used for pets, livestock as well. Another thing is it could be used for drug production, as many farm animals produce proteins and drugs that are actually very beneficial and are used in a lot of production in medicine. Another thing is that it can be a solution to infertility too. And then it can also be used to clone intelligent people that advance our society, in the government, maybe in the environmental aspects of it, universities, professors, and all those higher ups can be cloned to make a proper and more knowledgeable society.